Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to another subscriber replay. This is sent in courtesy of Pansy. He is, for those of you who don't know / remember, he is a member of the Dingers clan, a member of one of the Dingers clans. I'll get my words out in a moment. He is also an active poster, that's one way of putting it, on the EU World of Tanks forum, and he does tank drawings and a whole bunch of other shtick. I've featured one of his replays before, which was a rather silly game in the mighty TOG, and once again we're keeping things British. This, and also at tier 6, this is the Achilles. Now I haven't played this machine yet, I'm quite a way off it. But this is the second British Tier 6 tank destroyer, so this is on the second British tank destroyer line, the one that culminates in the FV 4005 and includes such machines as the Charioteer and the... no, I'm jesting. The Charioteer and the Crappinger, otherwise known as the Challenger. But this is the tier 6. So, this is an encounter game here on Sand River. Oh. And that was a little bit weird. It's okay, I'll just edit that out. In which case, if I have edited it out, you'll be wondering why I'm talking about editing something out. Anyway, World of Tanks just had a bit of a senior moment. But it recovered from having a senior moment, so let's run with it. This is the tier 6 on the turreted British tank destroyer line, which is what I was trying to say. And this is an encounter game on Sand River. So this tank is the first, no that's a lie, it's the second tank in its line to be mounted with the ubiquitous 17-pounder. This is a 76mm gun you find on British tanks a lot at the sort of mid-tiers. 171 average pen, 150 average damage. And, ooh, Leopard got a nice bit of air and tracked himself, and somehow that shot failed to do damage to him. Don't ask me how, I have no idea. Now, you could actually try for the re-tracking shot here, but it looks like the shots Pansy's putting in should damage the track anyway, so you probably don't need to be quite that specific. And Pansy picks up kill number 1. I should also mention that if you look at the way the team's deployed, basically there's 1 or 2 guys who have vaguely ventured in the general vicinity of the cap circle. But most of them, you're kind of playing it a little bit more tentatively. There's a few tanks up north as well, and Pansy is, well, this is a tank destroyer, and the armour is woeful, and Pansy is playing it as such. So for those who aren't aware, what is the Achilles? Well, it's basically an American M10 Wolverine with a 17-pounder gun slapped in the turret. And in game terms, they've kept it with it was some sort of limiter or stock or something that the tank got, which basically limited the gun depression to 5 degrees. I find that a little arbitrary, because it's an entirely artificial limitation, and it's an aspect that the crew often removed from their machines, because screw that. It was supposed to stop the gun being damaged or something. Anyway, in-game it has it, so it has 5 degrees of gun depression, which gets kind of annoying, and I don't really think it needs 5 degrees. I think it could have the 10 degrees that the Wolverine, Hellcat and Jackson all get, but what are you going to do? What do I know? I only play the game. So, Pansy has picked up 1 kill, and he's just putting fire into people from a distance, and I'm actually surprised at the number of these shots that are bouncing. I mean, that one on the side of the M6, very surprising. But there we go. This is, of course, a tier 7 game. I should have probably mentioned that already, so Pansy is not top tier, but this gun is perfectly capable of doing the job in a tier 7 game, although, I mean, I don't own this tank, but so far, I know these shots are relatively long range, but I'm not colossally impressed with the accuracy thus far of this gun. And Pansy is certainly burning through the ammunition at an alarming rate of knots. So, yeah. Anyway, that A44 formed kill number 2, and the score lines are currently 6-7 with the enemy team capping, 7-7 with the enemy team capping. So, it's not too bad. If you look at what tanks are remaining on each team, both teams have a tier 7 heavy tank and a tier 7 artillery. And then an assortment of tier 6s. Essentially the difference is that I was going to say the difference is the enemy have an extra artillery in the form of that tier 6, but the scoreline is now 7-10, so that isn't really a relevant statement anymore. Oh dear. So, everyone on Pansy's team in the north has just had an allergic reaction to life. And that was a bad miss. Oh, the Jumbo's on the other side of the... No? Where is that guy? There he is. And so Pansy is trying to do something about what's left over on this side. He finally gets spotted for I think it might be the first time in this game, and finds himself squaring off against a Jumbo, a Sherman E2 Jumbo. That thing's got pretty good armour. It's mobile enough. The gun, well, it depends whether the guy's using the 76mm gun or the 105mm howitzer. Either way, for a tier 6, the gun is a little lackluster. Friendly artillery also just got nuked by the enemy Su-14-1, and can you feel the whinge coming in? The Nashorn has just typed in capital letters Achilles into the chat. I'm not really quite sure. I'm not exactly sure what he's expecting. A tier 6 tank destroyer who, as far as I could tell, was, well, doing tank destroyer type things. Not really sure what he's expecting Pansy to do differently here, but there we go. C'est la vie. 3 of them versus 6 of the bad guys. Now we know that Sherman Jumbo is on low health. Don't really know about the others. Don't know where they are or anything of that ilk. So we shall see, I guess. The one thing that I guess you could say in the Achilles' favour is that it's one of the turreted tank destroyers, like the Jackson, like the Hellcat, and so that gives you a degree of flexibility that you don't get with machines like the Dickomax. I just had that thought as Pansy was driving past the Dickomax, which is made of tissue, and it's quite slow and ponderous, and it's your traditional tank destroyer type machine. And we've reached a stage in this game where there's kind of a lull in the action, if you want, and friendly artillery's not very happy with how things are going, let's put it that way. And you sometimes get that. You get these games and then there's this kind of lull in the action. What normally then happens is that the numerically superior team attempts to take the initiative, but we haven't seen anything from the enemy team in ages, and they must be looking at this and thinking they've probably got it wrapped up. And, well, they may well be right. I mean, the Dickomax just team killed the friendly artillery. What are you going to do with teammates like this, eh? Sometimes you just look at things and think, do we really need an enemy team? Do we? Well, c'est la vie. I mean, to be fair, the artillery was threatening to team kill the Dickomax, so he's barely any better, frankly. But there we go. And you can clearly see that, oh my god, some action. I am waffling to fill in the gap here. And make up for the fact that there was a lull in the action. Now, the enemy KV-3 has now been spotted and has cropped up, and that Dickomax is just completely hosed, and so Pansy finds himself alone versus 6 enemies. Now, some of you may remember the TOG game that he had, so if you do remember that, never count Pansy out. I think in that one he was alone against 7, 8 bad guys, I lose track. KV-3, what's good about the KV-3? The armour is respectable. What's bad about the KV-3? Well, the gun you can debate about, but the view range is pretty terrible in common with a lot of the mid-tier Soviet machines. Pansy isn't going to take any chances. He loads APCR. I mean, his AP should have done the job against the KV-3 anyway, but it was an extreme range shot, and Pansy loads the APCR just to be on the safe side. With APCR, his penetration jumps up to 239. Still one shot missed and buried itself into the tracks, of course. So that's one more of them dead. I would advise you don't pay too much attention to chat, or do if you like a good laugh. I'll leave that up to you. Pansy switches back to regular rounds. You could argue that he might actually want to use the APCR here, but he knows the weak spots of the 88. which is basically all of it. If any of you have watched my AT8 review, you will be aware of what I think of the armour scheme on that machine. Anyway, Pansy makes good use of weak spot knowledge there to fill the AT8 full of holes and take him down. Now there are 2 artillery left on the enemy team in conjunction with those 2 medium tanks, and of course we know that the Sherman Jumbo is a one-shot. And oh my god, I was going to say, and the friendly base is being capped. I say the friendly base, the collective base is being capped, so Pansy probably wants to do something about that, but he does get spotted out by the T-34. If the enemy has any sense, he knows exactly where Pansy's coming from, but clearly that Jumbo was lacking, because he should have been pre-aimed in this location, and he should have really given Pansy some problems. Pansy gets a little lucky here because he's already been tracked once, a shot against him that did no actual damage, and it happens a second time. He takes a couple of rounds from the T-34. But, in short, he's still alive with about half of his health remaining, which is not too shabby. And there's only 2 of them left on the enemy team now. It's the artillery. And so, although Pansy is looking a little bit low on the ammo count, he should be more than sufficient for artillery. Now, you could load HE here. The problem is you then have to shoot these guys in the right place, and they may or may not have the right place. So, you know, if they've got that big flimsy superstructure, it tends to be a bit easier than if they don't. So, yeah, you're probably safer sticking to AP and APCR here, if we're going to be honest. Going to move this along a little bit. The main problem here is that Pansy is running out of time. He's only got 3 minutes of this match left. This was a full 15-minute match, but, you know, it's been rather slow. So, spots out the Su-14-1, puts 1 shot into him. I have no idea where that second shot just went. Loads a high explosive round. The Su-14-1 fires, and Pansy manages to dodge the shot from the M44. 2 minutes and 46 left. And that will be the SU again. And Pansy is driving away from them. I'm honestly not quite sure why. Both of the artillery have fired at this point. And there we go. No actual damage on the Su-14-1. Instead, he probably knocks out the guy's gun or something. Switches to the APCR now, which I totally agree with. In this situation, against these particular artillery pieces, I don't think the high explosive ammo, and with a relatively low caliber gun, I mean, this is only a 76mm gun at the end of the day, the HE ammo isn't very good, so I would say you want to stick with your armor-piercing and armor-piercing composite rigid ammo in this scenario. A larger caliber gun, sure, fire HE, but in this scenario I think APCR now, as Pansy has actually run out of armor-piercing ammo, is the best choice. There's the Su-14-1, it will take 2 more shots to kill this guy, there's one of them. Second one whiffs, come on, make the third one work. There we go. Kill number 7, which of course puts Pansy 1 off a Radley Walters medal. Now, this guy did fire earlier on. We don't actually know where this chap is, but he did have a shot on Pansy earlier on when he was spotted by the SU. So I'm just going to speed this along a little bit, although we only have 1 minute of this game left. Pansy really needs to get a wiggle on. I mean, if the guy is not very imaginative, he'll be over by the spawn point. He says he might lose because of the lack of gun depression, but give credit to him, the friendly artillery piece says, nah, no one's going to blame you if we lose. You prodded buttock. The rest of our team, not so much. It's not your fault if we don't win this. Pansy switches back to the high explosive ammo, which I can understand as he may not have the time to reload additional shells here to finish off the artillery. 20 seconds of this match left, and it looks like this game might end up being a draw, which would suck, but oh no, there he is, never mind. 280 health, first shot does over 200 damage with that HE, trying to find the shot with the APCR, and with 1 second left on the game, he manages to pull a win out of that. So, after that very close run game, Pansy managed to pick up Ace Tanker, Fire for Effect, Duelist, Bruiser, High Caliber, Top Gun, Radley Walters Medal, and a Kolobanov's Medal. A very nice medal haul indeed. 2,970 damage, 8 kills, 1,559 base experience. Easily the most damage or experience. Well, I say easily. Easily the most experience of anyone on either team. Commiserations to the enemy KV3, who managed 2,500 damage, but it wasn't quite enough. 45 shots fired, 30 hits, 23 pens. Bear in mind, most of those shots were at pretty extreme range. And with a standard account, Pansy would have lost money. He fired a little bit of APCR there, and a lot of his shots didn't hit or penetrate. But it's still quite unusual to make a loss at tier 6. He was running a premium account though, so he made a profit. And, you know, he managed, with the premium account, basically 2,500 experience. So that's a very nice result there. I hope you guys enjoyed that game. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. And I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.